Hi guys, today we're going to be continuing our talk about evaluating functions. So yesterday our section was called 1.1b. This is just part 2 of that same assignment, so if you are hopefully taking notes with these videos, please do that. This is just going to be a continuation of yesterday's notes. So we are going to evaluate functions using a graph. So if you look at our graph here, it's hard to see a little bit, but there are two points that we've marked here, and there's nothing special about these points, it's just two that we can look at. So notice that this one in the middle here is on the origin. So that means that the x value is 0 and also the y value is 0. Every point on a function, so every point along this line in this case, has an x value and a y value, right? So, excuse me, so this point right here has an x value and a y value, right? The x value is 2, and also the y value is 2, right? So if I wanted to evaluate a function using the graph, what that's going to say is it's going to say something like, what is f of 2? What is that equal to? So remember, for a function, we have like f of x equals x or something. It might be 3x plus 5. There's some expression over here, and over on this side we have f of x. X is our input. So because of that, I know that this 2 is equal to x, and we want to find the y that goes with x equals 2. Okay, so I go over to x equals 2. I find the point on the graph where x equals 2, and then I go over and say, okay, well, y equals 2 when x equals 2. So if I were making like a t-chart here, x is 2 and y is 2, right? On this point right here, when x was 0, then y is also 0. And in fact, on this function, because it is the function y equals x, every time we have an x value, the y value is the same. Okay, but that's definitely not the case on all functions. This is just this one. So when x is 3, y is 3. When x is 4, y is 4. And again, remember that y and f of x are the same thing. So x is the value inside the parentheses, y is f of x. Okay, so let's look at another one. So let's find f of 1. Okay, so what this tells me is that x equals 1, and we need to find the y value, or the f of x value, when x equals 1. So I go over here to my function, x equals 1 here, right? So I line that up with the function. And then this point right here is the point where x equals 1. And what is the y value here? The y value is -1. So f of 1 equals -1. Okay. If I wanted to find f of 3, okay, then I would be plugging or finding where x equals 3. I need to find the y value that goes with that. So I go over to x equals 3. 1, 2, 3. It's right here. I line it up with the graph. This point is where x equals 3 on this function. The y value is 2. So that's the point 3, 2. When x is 3, y is 2. Okay. So let's try f of -2. When x equals -2, I go over -2, I line it up with the graph. This point right here is where x equals 2. The y value there is 1. So f of -2 equals 1. Let's just do maybe one more. It's like all the others might be on fractions, but let's do f of -1. So when x equals -1, what does y equal? So if I go over to -1, I've got this point right here, which actually looks like it's slightly below. So it might be like maybe 1/4 or so. The y value is -1/4. Okay. So when you see this, when you see f of a number, like, I don't know, 2 or 3, this is asking you what is the y value when x equals 3. Okay, so that's the question you're being asked when it says f of 3 equals what? Okay, what is the y value when the x value is 3? That's the same thing, it's just in notation. Okay, so let's look at one more graph. This one is called a piecewise function because we have 3 different pieces of our graph. It kind of hops around, but it's still a function because it passes the vertical line test. And so we can go ahead and find different values. So first of all, what is f of 1? So remember that's when x equals 1, what does y equal? So if I go over to x equals 1, it's this point right here that's on the graph at x equals 1, the y value equals 2. Okay. If I wanted to know what is y when x equals -2, I would go over to -2, line it up with the graph, that's this point right here, and the y value there is -1. If I wanted to know what f of 3 is equal to, I would go over to x equals 3, I would line up with the graph, this point is the point where x equals 3, again, that one equals 2. Okay, now notice here that there's kind of a gap in here. If I were to ask you what is f of 0, okay, when x equals 0, that's along this line, that doesn't connect with the graph anywhere. So because it doesn't connect with the graph anywhere, there would be no solution on this graph for x equals 0. There's no y value that lines up with x equals 0 on this graph. Okay, so if it's not there, it's undefined. And notice on f of 3, it kind of looked like there was actually 2 points that were on x equals 3 for y, but since that one's an open circle, that one doesn't exist, so it would just be this one here. Okay. If I wanted to know what is f of 5, so what does y equal when x equals 5? So go over to x equals 5. Oh, it's right on the line. So the y value there is just 0. So when x is 5, y is 0. When x is 4, this point right here is when x equals 4, so the y value there is 1. Okay. What is the y value when x equals 2? Go over to x equals 2, that line right here. This point right here has an x value of 2. So what's the y value of that point? It's 4. Okay. So go ahead and give these a try. The first part of your worksheet is all about these. And then the last part of your worksheet is going to be just a review from yesterday. You're given 3 functions and asked to find like f of 2 or g of 7. And you're going to have to locate which function is f and which one is g. And then you're going to plug that number in for x and just evaluate. I should say here that if I were to ask to find f of -1, so that means when x equals 1, what does y equal? So if I go over here to -1, I see that it lines up on this open circle. Again, that means this point is not included, so this one would also have no solution. There's no y value when x equals -1 because of the open circle there. Okay. All right, guys, you have a great day, and if you have any questions, please just email me and we can get you some help. Have a great day.